Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is of course going to be my Championship Week 17 score predictions, guys. So we're now well into December now, and this is where the Championship really does start to get interesting, you know. Getting into this festive period when a lot of games start being played, this is where a team can either make or break their season, and this weekend in the Championship should be no different, guys. We've got a whole fixture list to go ahead and predict with some pretty tasty games in there this week. So if you guys haven't seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every weekend I give you guys my Championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the Championship. FIFA 18 also makes their score predictions, but what I am of course really interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below I will leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video, guys. So without further ado, we got a lot to talk over in this video. Let's jump into it. So to kick off this weekend's games, guys, we do have a game going on tonight in the Championship. That is a game taking place between Sheffield Wednesday and Wolves, and this game could actually have huge significance in Sheffield Wednesday's season, of course. Their manager Carlos Carvajal has been coming under increasing pressure for all of the year. You know, Sheffield Wednesday without a doubt underachieving in the league at the moment. They're without a win now in their last 6 or 7 games now, and really this run of form hasn't been good enough for Sheffield Wednesday. But one of the most disheartening things really is there haven't been that many signs that they're going to be turning it around. So the players of Sheffield Wednesday have to know that the manager is under pressure. So this performance against Wolves and where their mentality is will be very telling to me whether they still believe in the manager's ways, if they're going to put in a full performance for this one, or do they not really care anymore. So that'll be interesting to tell from this one. Wolves, of course, in their last game did suffer a 0-0 draw with Sunderland. In that game, Sunderland were very defensive. I don't anticipate Sheffield Wednesday to play the same way. You know, they're a team playing at home who need to come at that Wolves side, which could actually work to Wolves' advantage. So for a prediction for this one, I do anticipate Wolves to get back to winning ways tonight, and I am going to go for a 3-1 away victory. FIFA's going to say it'll be a 0-0. Then into our next game, we do now move on into the Saturday games, the first of which being Birmingham, who are coming up against QPR. Now this is quite a tough one to call, actually, in my opinion. Neither side have been brilliant so far this season, but it's an interesting record which both of these two sides do have coming into this one. QPR, of course, still yet to win away from home this season, so you've got to give it to Birmingham. This could be a huge weekend for them to go ahead and climb out of the bottom 3, but I just don't feel confident enough to back Birmingham for a victory, of course. So far this season, this Birmingham side has only been able to score 10 goals, which is really awful, you know, considering some of the talent they brought in the transfer window as well. That's really not been good enough for them, and their home form this season has been very fluttery, and so I'm not convinced that this one will be Birmingham getting back to winning ways, but I do anticipate them to get a point from this one. So for this game, I'm going to go ahead and predict it to be a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 QPR. Then our next game sees Bolton Wanderers, who are coming up against Burton Albion. So of course, Burton Albion still rooted to the bottom of the Championship, but I will give them some credit. In their last game against Preston, they maybe got a little bit unlucky, actually. I thought that going forward there were a lot more positive signs for Burton in that game. You know, they were creating a lot more chances than they had been doing in their previous game week. So if they can keep up that momentum going forward and maybe be a little bit more clinical, I could see them getting something from this game and maybe going ahead and snatching all 3 points. Bolton, on the other hand, I thought they got a little bit unlucky in their last game against Nottingham Forest. Scored 2 goals in that one. Just defensively, they need to shape up a little bit. So this could have the ingredients to be a decent game taking place at the bottom of the Championship. But for this one, I am going to go ahead and go with my gut feeling, and that is going to be a 2-1 home victory for Bolton. I'd be interested to see how Burton approach this game though, but I'll say 2-1 Bolton. FIFA's saying a 0-0. Then our next game sees Brentford come up against Barnsley. So Barnsley, of course, have just been extending this winless run that they're currently enduring, and it doesn't look like there's too many signs of it letting up, of course. In their last game week, they had that pretty tragic game against Derby County, so they'll be looking to put that behind them as soon as possible, but it doesn't really get much easier for them, as an away game at Brentford really is a tricky tie in this championship this season, of course. Brentford at home especially have been scoring quite freely, and with how fragile the Barnsley defence is looking at the moment, and the thing which is costing Barnsley more than anything is individual mistakes, and I feel like a team like Brentford is that sort of side where going forward they'll be able to take full advantage of those mistakes. So fair play to Barnsley if they do manage to turn it around in this one, but for me, I'm going to go for a 3-1 home victory for Brentford. I fancy them to bounce back after last week, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-0 Brentford. And our next game could actually be a very entertaining game. That is the one taking place between Bristol City and Nottingham Forest. So of course, Bristol City will be wanting to put the pressure on as much as possible onto both Cardiff and Wolves, as they're currently sat third in the championship. I mean, I know not a lot of people would have said that at the start of the season, but it has just been a testament to how good they've been, and especially going forward as well. I think they can cause this Nottingham Forest side a whole lot of problems. With Forest defence can be very shaky, I think that's fair to say. You know, we've seen quite a few blunders from that defence so far this season, so if Bristol City are on their A game, they will cause them quite a few problems. But one thing I do respect about this Nottingham Forest side is they do go for games. You know, they don't settle for a draw, they really go out and look for a win. So I think that if Forest set up in a similar way, this could be a very entertaining game and be quite end to end. So for a prediction for this one, I think quite a few goals could be scored, but I just can't back against Bristol City at the moment. So for that reason, I will go for a 3-2 home victory for Bristol City, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Bristol City. Then our next game sees 4th come up against 5th in the championship in the game between Derby County and Aston Villa. Now this could have quite significance actually come the end of the season for both of these clubs, as this could be quite a deciding game whether either of them will be pushing on for automatic promotion at the end of this season. Now of course, in their last game I was quite disappointed with Aston Villa really. It probably was quite a shoddy performance as to their usual standards in that 0-0 draw against Millwall, and up against this Derby side who of course have been freely scoring for a lot of the season. At home especially, I really do anticipate Derby to take the game to Aston Villa, and with Steve Bruce being quite a cautious manager, I don't think Aston Villa will go completely toe-to-toe with Derby, but that in turn could play to their advantage. So for a prediction for this one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I do fancy these two sides to go ahead and cancel each other out, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. Then our next game is between Ipswich Town and Reading. So of course, Reading were involved in the Monday night game the other day against Cardiff City, where in the end that one did finish as a 2-2 draw. And I'm going to be honest, Reading probably should have gone ahead and picked up all 3 points in that one. In the first half of that game especially, I was actually really impressed by how well Reading were playing, and they probably should have gone to score more than 2 goals, and that's been a characteristic of Reading for quite a few games so far this season. They've been creating quite a few chances, but in the end they just don't have that clinical player who's going to go ahead and score more times than he's not. And I feel like Reading may be only 1 or 2 players away from really going ahead and climbing up the transfer and climbing up the table. So maybe the January transfer window could be quite big for Reading this season. Coming up against Ipswich, who do have a very impressive home record, this could be another interesting game where I anticipate both of these two sides to be going for it in this one. And so for that reason, I'm going to predict it to be a 2-2 draw. I think quite a few goals could be scored in this one here today, so I'll say 2-2. FIFA's saying a 0-0. Our next game is between Leeds United and Norwich City, and this could be a big game in Norwich this season actually, as in their last game week against Sheffield Wednesday, they put in probably what was one of their best performances of the season so far in that 3-1 victory. And going away to Leeds, I'm interested to see how Daniel Farke actually goes ahead and approaches this game. You know, if Norwich do go ahead and sit back in this game and just try to nullify Leeds, I feel like it can't end too well for them. But if they do go and push forward and play with a bit more freedom in the final third like they were against Sheffield Wednesday, I do think they could cause this Leeds defence quite a few problems in this one. Also as well, from Leeds' perspective, I'm interested to see how Kemar Roofe does now and builds on that form that he showed in the last week, managing to bag a hat-trick against QPR. I'm looking forward to seeing more of what he can do. So for a prediction for this one, I am going to go ahead and back a 2-1 home victory for Leeds. I just fancy them at home. They've been quite strong this season. Norwich, I'm interested to see if their last week was just a flash in the pan or if they're going to build on it or not. But I'll say 2-1 Leeds. FIFA saying 1-0 Leeds. Then our next game sees Millwall go up against Middlesbrough. So of course, in the last week we did see Middlesbrough managing to get back to winning ways with that 2-0 victory over Ipswich. But one thing I will say about that game is Ipswich in that game were pretty passive and they allowed Middlesbrough to have time on the ball and craft their chances out. When we've seen teams go up against Middlesbrough this season and take the game to them and be quite direct with them, we have seen Middlesbrough crumble in certain games so far this season. And Millwall is a team, especially with Middlesbrough going away, I don't think Millwall are the sort of side which will give that respect to Middlesbrough and sit off them. I fully expect them to be going for this game and to be direct from set pieces and things like that, which is an area Middlesbrough have been quite shoddy with so far this season. So for this one, I am going to fancy Millwall to go ahead and pick up all 3 points. At home this season, their form has been very strong. They were unlucky not to win last week against Aston Villa, and in the game before that, they were fantastic in that 3-1 victory against Sheffield United. So for this one, I will go for a 2-0 home victory for Millwall, whereas FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1. And then the next game does see my club Preston North End go up against Sheffield United. So of course, in recent weeks, Sheffield United haven't been getting the best of luck. You know, they're without a win now in their last 4 games, but despite that, I mean, last week they did get pretty unlucky, I have to say that, you know. The game against Bristol City, I thought they got incredibly unlucky not to get anything from that game. With the amount of chances that they created, you know, on another day they would have got something from that, but coming up against Preston, I don't think will make it easy for Sheffield United though. Preston have won 3 of their last 4 games and are looking on a really good run of form at the moment as we look to build back towards the playoffs, as we had that little bit of a crumble not too long ago. But since then we have seemed to turn it around and things are looking a lot more positive at Preston at the moment. I do hope that Daryl Horgan is starting in this game, as he changed the game in my opinion for our game against Burton. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in this one. But in terms of a prediction, I will go for a 1-1 draw for this one. I fancy the 2 sides to cancel each other out, whereas FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Preston. Then our next game does see Sunderland going up against Fulham. So arguably last week Sunderland got the result of the weekend, managing to get that 0-0 draw away to high-flying Wolves. But you know, the game plan they implemented for that one was incredibly defensive, and I just don't feel like Chris Coleman's going to be able to get away with playing the same way at home against this Fulham side. And of course, it's been no secret so far this season, Sunderland do have the worst home form in the Championship. So it's not going to be an easy one, you know, playing against this Fulham side who going forward at times can be devastating. And as I can't see Sunderland being as defensive as they were against Wolves, I do get the impression that they will start to see a couple more cracks appear in that back line. So as for a prediction for this one, I am going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Fulham. And although signs do tend to be improving at Sunderland, you know, they've still got a long way to go this season. So I'll say 2-1 Fulham, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. Then our last game is taking place. The evening kickoff on Saturday is between Cardiff City and Hull City, and this does have quite a few of the ingredients to go ahead and be a really good game in the Championship. Of course, we did speak briefly about Cardiff's last game against Reading when we were speaking about the Reading game, and Cardiff did get a little bit fortunate in that one. You know, in the first half they were way off the pace than what we've come to expect from them so far this season, but their home record speaks for itself. They have been brilliant at home so far this season, and I do anticipate them to be a lot quicker off the blocks than they were on Monday night. But coming up against this Hull side, they seem to have a little bit more of a spring in their step at the moment. Of course, now they've changed management, a lot seems to be a bit more positive around the club. You know, they managed to get off to a winning start last week with that 3-2 victory over Brentford, and you know, this season Hull have showed that goals won't be a problem for them. Going forward, they've got some fantastic options, but defensively against a side like Cardiff, I do feel like Hull may struggle a bit in this one. So for that reason, I'm going to go for another high-scoring 3-2 home victory for Cardiff. What do you guys make of that one? Leave it in the comments down below. So guys, there you have it. That will wrap it up for my Championship Week 17 score predictions. So do you guys agree with my score predictions? Let me know down below. As always guys, all of this weekend's fixtures will be listed in the description down below, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. Well, apart from that guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do drop a sub for some regular Championship content. But apart from that guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.